Good evening, everyone. This is my husband, Kyle Jackson, and he will be part of my audience for my informative speech. Good evening. My name is Janine Roumo, and today I'm here to inform you about the importance of controlling your blood pressure. And I'll also go over how you can control your blood pressure at home before it even reaches the point where you need interventions from your healthcare provider. Even if you're a young and fit person, it is good for you to receive this information because you can take it back to your friends and family who may be experiencing high blood pressure, and they may not know the signs and symptoms of the disorder or when it is that they need to seek help. Blood pressure, according to WebMD, is the most important risk factor for cardiovascular disease, which happens to be the number one cause of death worldwide in all the countries that's around the world. As a nurse, one of the main things that I really dislike is when I'm going into my patient's room each morning and the doctors are giving reports about the patients and talking to the patients in words that they don't understand, and half the words the medical staff we can't even pronounce and halfway understand ourselves. So I'm going to do my best to make sure I can break this down to where you'll understand it in 2-year-old terms, because that's the easiest way for me to understand it. So in order to know how to control your blood pressure at home, you first have to understand and know what blood pressure is. So your blood pressure, it is divided into two numbers, a top number and a bottom number. Your top number, which is known as your systolic blood pressure, is the blood pressure which measures how hard your blood is pressing against your arteries as your heart is pumping. Now, your diastolic blood pressure is the blood pressure that's at the bottom that tells you how hard your blood is pressing against your arteries when your heart is actually relaxing. Now, you do have normal ranges for your blood pressure. 120 over 80 is considered a normal blood pressure. 120 over 80 to 139 over 89, that is considered a moderate blood pressure or even a pre-hypertensive blood pressure. Now, when you get your blood pressure checked and they tell you that your blood pressure is 140 over 90, that's when you're considered high blood pressure, which is also known as hypertension. So if you ever hear someone refer to, oh, you have hypertension, they're referring to you having high blood pressure, which means that your heart is pumping too hard at the top and most likely at the bottom as well. Now, at this time when you have hypertension, you would have to seek medical attention, and most likely the doctor will put you on some medications and you'll have to continue this regimen. But what I'm going to go over is what you can do before your blood pressure even gets to that point. Now, there are some risk factors that are just completely out of our control when it comes to what I need to do to maintain my blood pressure. Things that are out of control are people that have a family history of blood pressure, or African Americans are known to have higher blood pressure, and that may be because of the soul food that we like to eat. Men tend to be at higher risk for blood pressure until the age of 54, and then once they hit the age 54, women come right along with them, and we're just at highest risk for them as well. The other thing that goes into consideration for that as well is the fact that at some point we're all going to age and our bodies just go downhill from that, and we start to be at risk for hypertension as well. Now, things that we can't control are our lifestyles. So when you have a diet that is unhealthy, high in fats, high in salt, so if you're looking down and you see that your ankles are swollen or your hands are swollen, you're probably taking in too much salt, and that increases your blood pressure because water follows salts, and so all that water stays on top of you. And the way to get your blood pressure down is to get that water and to get that salt off of you. Other things to consider is that if you're eating the wrong things, you're also overweight. If you're not moving around, you're not active, you're not exercising, if you're drinking too much alcohol, if you're smoking, I don't know what you're smoking, but if you're smoking, also if you're stressed, if you have too much stress, that can also increase your blood pressure as well. Now, these are things that you can change. And when you're looking at blood pressure, there really is, according to the American Heart Association, no real signs or symptoms of high blood pressure. Some people experience headaches, shortness of breath, maybe some frequent nosebleeds, but those aren't necessarily indications that you're suffering from hypertension. The real way for you to know is if you do have the high blood pressure is if you're going to your doctors and getting your regular checkups and they're consistently seeing that your blood pressure is running high. When your doctors see this, they will tell you, okay, for 7 days, I need you to go ahead and keep track of your blood pressure, and it needs to be at the same time every day so that they can see did you come into your appointment at a certain time and your blood pressure tends to be high at that time, or is this your normal blood pressure? And your normal blood pressure, they may also refer to as your baseline. You'll need to get a baseline so that they can know, well, do you always sit at 138 over 62 or 138 over 83? Or are you sitting in the 120s over 80s? Those are normal blood pressures. And your doctors have to know that in order to have a care plan developed for you. Now, other things that you can do to decrease your chance of your pre-hypertension turning into hypertension is by getting up and exercising at least 3 to 4 times a week of vigorous exercises for 40 minutes. If you go to choosemyplate.gov, that replaced the food pyramid, they will tell you and give you different recommendations on what you can eat to help out with your diet and also decrease your chances of getting hypertension as well. You can also check your blood pressure yourself at home. There are several ways to check your blood pressure. Now, my husband suffers from blood pressure, so I occasionally need to check his blood pressure for him. And because I'm a nurse, there's certain things that I have. I have a stethoscope, and I do have my own blood pressure cuff. This I have to wrap around his arm. I have to put my stethoscope in place in my ears, and I actually have to listen to the blood as it goes back and forth through his arteries so I can get an accurate reading of what his blood pressure is. I actually have to pump this up, and it goes up to a certain number, and then I release it. This is a little harder if you're not in the healthcare field and you don't have anybody at home to check your blood pressure, but you can go to any local drugstore or you can go to Walmart, and they actually have electronic blood pressures that cost maybe anywhere from $20 to $30. I haven't found any myself that are cheaper than that you can simply put on your wrist, you put it across your chest, and it will do a countdown, and it will take your blood pressure for you. That is very, very user friendly, especially when you're at home and you don't have a healthcare provider with you that can take care of it for you. The other thing is just to make sure you see your doctor regularly and you're compliant with your care. If you're non-compliant and you do what you want to do and don't follow the doctor, then you're going to be at that point where you are when you do have hypertension. Now, my husband falls into that category, so I'm constantly on him. But I do my best and he does his best. So I hope that each of you learned something and got something out of this, and that you will take something with you and you'll be able to control your blood pressure as well as give information to your family members. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.